And welcome back to the MMA Plug on Mile High Sports Radio 98.1 FM and streaming live on milehighsports.com. Ron Kruck and Jordan Kurtz talking UFC on Denver's only live and local MMA show. Excited to welcome back to the program a good friend and one of the sport's all-time great lightweights. He's a two-time Strikeforce lightweight champ, former WEC champion as well, and a UFC veteran. Gilbert Melendez joins the MMA Plug. Gil, it's Kruck and Kurtz in Denver. Thanks for coming back on the show, my man.
Oh, it's great to be here. I'm glad we get to do the Zoom this time.
Yeah, we got to get you some airtime, that's for sure. Hey, you know, this is the perfect week to have you on. We were just talking about, you know, the UFC and their lightweight situation and how the promotion is basically, I mean, staging a 155-pound tournament for the next few months with, you know, a lot of the top 10 fighters battling it out. Of course, number 4 ranked Michael Chandler or number 3 ranked Charles Oliveira will be the new lightweight king after this weekend. But give me your thoughts, Gil, on the current state of the UFC lightweight division.
Yeah, the lightweight division has been very tricky, you know, throughout the years. It's been a difficult, sorry about that, guys. It's been a difficult title to attain, right? There's been so many guys, so many great guys out there, and people have gotten so close and haven't been able to do it. So I think notoriously it's a weight class that is stacked. Guys are strong. Guys are quick. There's a lot of great talent out there. As of this being you know, a main event for the title, I believe it's a great fight. You know, I think there's debate out there whether this is the real number one contendership or the real title fight out there. But I think these guys are definitely worthy and deserve an opportunity, you know, to showcase their skills and you know, possibly become champions.
Sure.
I was going to ask you, I mean, you kind of alluded to it a little bit there, but what is your thoughts on this being a title fight and Dustin Poirier not being one of those two competitors in the cage?
Well, you know, we're starting to understand in this sport, you know, the title is huge. It really is great for the resume. But more importantly, we know now that you need to get it in while you can in this sport, and you need to make the most money as much as possible in the little amount of time that you have. So, you know, I think Dustin Poirier probably had the opportunity to take this fight, an opportunity to fight for the title. But of course, yeah, we're going after that money. So it makes sense that he's made that choice. For me, I think, you know, I feel like I would like to see him fight for the title. I like for them to make that title worth more, right? Like, I think we should want to fight for that title. You should want to be the number one guy in the world. You should want to be the champion and want to fight for that belt and never want to pass it. There should be no reason to pass that up. And right now there is a reason to pass that up, a very good reason. But we need to bring
McGregor.
Yeah, exactly. You know, but we need
a state athlete.
Absolutely. And we just saw that this morning. But I think we need to bring more respect to the title in the sense that, you know, you should be getting Conor McGregor money if you are the champ. And they need to fix that up.
I agree with that. And it really takes some legitimacy away from your rankings when you have the number 3 and number 4 guy fighting for the title. But I get it. I take nothing away from Poirier and I get it. And as I said at the beginning of this interview, it's kind of like we have a tournament going on. So come December, this whole landscape could be blown up. But before we break down the two fights going down this weekend, Gil, you know, you and Michael Chandler took very similar paths during your MMA careers. You know, you were both champions in other promotions. You transitioned to the UFC later in your careers. Let's begin with the mindset of coming into the UFC as a champion from another promotion. I mean, I remember talking to you before your debut, and it seemed like you came in with a chip on your shoulder and like you had something to prove. Was that accurate?
It was accurate. You know, I feel like I had a business mindset going into the sport, and I feel like I've made decisions, you know, to make money, you know, at times, and I was really happy with my promoter, Scott Coker, in Strikeforce, and they did really good things for me. But along the way, the UFC Zuffa bought out Strikeforce, and they kept Strikeforce around for a while. And during that time, I was campaigning hard to get a title fight, champion versus champion, or trying to make that happen. And as soon as they absorbed Strikeforce, I thought I was going to immediately get that title shot. That wasn't the case. I got a call from Dana White about, hey man, we're going to keep you in Strikeforce. And that was 1 or 2 days before I fought Jorge Masvidal. And I was a little disappointed. I was the champ, and I thought I was going to be able to, go straight into the UFC and make some noise. But I had to fight Masvidal. I fought Kawajiri. I fought Josh Thompson for the third time. Brutal. I fought Josh Thompson, and that really, at that moment, I had a chip on my shoulder. Like, man, I fought everyone I could fight in Strikeforce. I want to go out there and prove a point, And the UFC did give me a great opportunity, and I think I placed myself in a great position for my first fight in the UFC. I was fighting for a title, and things didn't go my way, but I just see the same thing for Chandler. I felt like he's been a very good businessman. I know he's probably went in a direction where he got some really good money in Bellator, and they really helped him brand himself, and he had some really good fights. But him and Scott Coker, and I'm sure Bellator, they ran their course. They ran their course, and he did a great job of getting a big fight right out the gate with Hooker, and now he's placed himself in a position to fight for the title. And I think he gained something like 300,000 followers after his fight with Hooker. Damn. So it goes to show what the platform of the UFC can do for somebody.
100%.
Do you think that will be maybe a continued trend going forward, or that may be something that we see a little bit more of now that we see somebody like a Yuri Prohaska who's basically done the same thing, albeit through Ryzen, but someone who passed up going to the UFC earlier on in his career, so that he made sure once he decided to make that jump, he was ready to hit the ground running toward the title?
I think I believe so. I think there's a lot more focus on brand development as a fighter. Before we just wanted to fight, right? I'll fight for free, or nothing matters, or anything of that sort. But along with building your fight brand, you have to, you have to get on social media. You have to start strategizing, how you're going to become an entertainer now. Or how you have to play your cards right. Before it was just jump on whenever, wherever. So yeah, there's a lot more thought going into it, and there's a lot more of a data that people can go through of what I went through, how I did it, how Nate's done it, how other fighters have done it, how Conor McGregor has done it, and now how Chandler's done it, and how fighters are already doing it, not going straight to the UFC, and like you said, building their brands. And but it is always tricky though, right? Because you don't want to just build your brand in a promotion, and they're not just going to allow you to leave like that. So there is a fine line, but the game is changing. The game is changing in that sense.
It's a great point. We are speaking with the former Strikeforce and WEC champion Gilbert Melendez. Let's break down this UFC 262 card now, Gil. Chandler versus Oliveira. We will have a new champion in the 155-pound division. Finally, who do you see walking away with the belt Saturday, and why?
Whew. Oh man, that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
I know.
Before I give my answer, let me just say, when I see Chandler fight, I see him as, the Mike Tyson of MMA. I see him the way he takes the center of the octagon and presses forward. Good head movement, good level changes. Has solid wrestling, can take you down and control you. But most importantly, he has dynamite in those hands. We saw him go to the body of Hooker, and then a big left hook to the head. We've seen him land that overhand right. He's a powerful guy, and he has a great team and a great coach behind him with Henry Hook. And when I see Oliveira, I see a guy who needs to get the respect of Chandler immediately. And how he does that is, he needs to use those huge push kicks that he did against Kevin Lee. He needs to do solid knees, solid straights. We saw Hooker playing the perimeter of the octagon and pawing out jabs, pawing out inside kicks, but nothing that really gained the respect of Chandler. So I think that's really important of Charles Oliveira to do is to gain the respect of Chandler. But overall, I think Charles Oliveira has more tools to win. Having his grappling, his submission game. He's great with his striking when it comes to kicking, knees, elbows, but he also can box and has that long range. Can Chandler take him down? Yes. Can he neutralize the guard? I don't know. We saw what he did at Tony Ferguson. We saw what he did at Kevin Lee, but we also seen him get controlled by Paul Felder. But that was older. That was an older fight. But assessing all that, I think we're in for a very competitive fight, and it could be over in one punch, in one scramble. But just because Charles Oliveira has more tools to win, I believe I'm going to go with Oliveira on this one.
Love the breakdown. I mean, fantastically said. I can't agree with you more. I think that that is very accurate to say that Charles Oliveira is the more well-rounded guy, as we've seen, especially in his most recent winning streak. Do you think that there is a major risk for the way that Chandler tends to explode and go forward, that may be enough to leave, an arm drag to come across? That's all that somebody like Charles Oliveira needs. Do you think that his explosiveness will work against him?
That he is explosive and he has power. I mean, it is dangerous. It is very dangerous, and I think it can definitely do some damage. And if you don't put your foot down, or if you don't hold your ground, I mean, it's only going to become more and more dangerous with his confidence and with him knowing that he can walk through your strikes and through your kicks, through your knees and your punches. So yes, that explosiveness and that power can be a problem. But it's one of those things that Charles Oliveira needs to address immediately. Hold his ground and let him know he cannot be bullied. And if you stop the bully by landing some really solid body shots and really good up kicks to the chin, and you get that respect and that forward pressure and that confidence isn't there, that's really going to allow Oliveira to work his game more and to pick his shots and take away from Chandler's confidence. And I think that's important.
Great insight on the main event at UFC 262. Make sure you go to ESPN's MMA page and you can see Gilbert Melendez break down the main event in his videos that he does fantastically for every event. Another big lightweight matchup this weekend, Gil. Number 5 and former interim champ Tony Ferguson returning to the octagon, facing the surging number 9 ranked Beneil Dariush. Gil, how much on the line is there for the veteran Ferguson? And do you think he's got enough left in the tank to make another run?
Oh man, this is a tough one for Tony Ferguson. He's an amazing fighter, an amazing character, and he's one of those guys. I'm a fighter, so it doesn't surprise me when I see someone like him. It's in another dimension sometimes. But it doesn't surprise me that that's the recipe for a guy that can be a champion. This guy believes in himself so much, and I think that's huge. That's huge. And he's had a rough last 2 fights, so this is a great opportunity for him to rebuild himself. I think Dariush is a great matchup for him because Dariush is a tough fighter who loves to stand and trade and fight you. And that's great for Tony Ferguson. I think where Tony's going to have the advantage is his creativity. He's a creative striker. He comes from all kinds of angles. And yes, he's a brawler and will stay there. But I think that's what's the difference. You got 2 brawlers that'll stay in the center that will fight, except one is a little more creative and very tricky out there. I have a lot of respect for Dariush as well. This guy has had ups and downs, but has been on fire lately. Yeah. And he's a guy that overcomes adversity too. I mean, we saw him in that exchange. I don't remember against the fighter, but the other guy had an advantage and he just decided to hold his ground and start swinging back and landed the big shot. So I think it's this fight's a lot for Tony. He needs to win. A loss will set him back. Will definitely take him out of a title run for a long time. But if he does win, he's such a huge character that he's right back in the mix. He's right back in. He's right back in. And I'd really like to see that for him because I just have a lot of respect for him. I think he looks back at his fight with Gaethje and then he sees what Khabib did to him, and he's probably wondering to himself, why in the hell didn't I just take this guy down right away? Why didn't I bring it to the ground? I'm such a great grappler. I got to use this against the right people. So I think he probably gives himself confidence. If you're a fighter like him, he looks for the holes to not bring himself down, but he looks for the holes to convince himself that he can be the best in the world again. And he's like, man, I could have done what Khabib did to Gaethje, and I can beat Khabib. I'm the grappler. So I like to see him go back to a lot of his grappling. Now, I don't know if that's the right guy to do it against. Dariush is also a grappler. But I think this is going to be a great fight, a fun fight. And the creativity is what's really going to make Tony stand out.
Tony's changed a lot of things up for this camp. He's done a lot of specialized training at Wild Card with guys like Freddie Roach. Do you think that that's cause for concern at all, that he's done so much specialized training as opposed to maybe working on his blend? And like you said, that creativity. Tony was that guy who, he throws a punch that turns into a roll, that turns into an elbow, and whoever knows what else that he gets you from. Do you think that that's maybe a little bit of a cause for concern?
And I see your point there. I think there could be some, you want someone like, we're in MMA, and I think boxing sometimes has rules. Like back in the days, like there's hardly boxers you see like switching stance in the middle of fights, right? It's like a no. But now someone like Terrence Crawford does it. Sure. And I believe more fighters in the future will be. And MMA is so free, and we're so young, that now when I talk to my young guys about fighting, they're like, is this right? Is this wrong? I said, be creative as you can. Do it. And we saw Anthony Pettis run off the cage and kick Benson Henderson that day. And at that moment, I said, oh, man, and nothing is impossible. So I could see how there can be some concern there if we try to make Tony this solid boxer. But I think Tony, the type of guy he'll pull out the Tiger style, the crane, the drunken master. Yes, and I think yes, exactly. And I think boxing is just one of those dimensions for him. Maybe I will pull out the boxing stance. Maybe I'll pull out the inverted attacks. Maybe I'll pull out the creative striking. So I think being the guy Tony is, he's always going to be himself. But I think there is always a little bit of concern for someone trying to change who they are, a wrestler trying to become a striker when they should be focusing on their takedown. So those things are for concern. But again, I have a bunch of respect for Tony, and there's nothing wrong with trying to reinvent yourself and try to evolve when you hit a roadblock, so I think it's great. And a lot of fighters have done that. I was undefeated for my first 13, 14 fights. Then I won, then I lost, then I won, then I lost, then I won like 9 straight again, and then you get to the title shot. So people have these ups and downs and come back, or they do that 12-0, 11-0, and they leave and they never come back, Great point. But you see it, and Takanori Gomi did the same thing, Anderson Silva did the same thing. A lot of fighters have done this, and they have like these phases in their careers, and the greats have all come up, gone down, and come back up. Some have had 3 cycles of being on top, come down, redoing it again, and then doing it again. I haven't seen anyone do more than 3 cycles, but most of the greats have done 2. Some just do 1. You see people 11-0, 12-0, they make it to the top, they lose a couple and they disappear, but they make it there. But you'll notice that. See records of people 12-0, 11-0, 13-0. That's when they lose, and that's when you're fighting the best of the best for the rest of your life. There's no really going backwards after that. I know I went off on a tangent there, but but yeah, a little concerned, but I think Tony's a guy that's going to make the best out of it.
All right, Gilbert, we only have 30 seconds, but I want to look ahead and get your take on the fight in July between Poirier and McGregor. How do you see the trilogy going?
That's a tough one right there. I think Dustin Poirier has the advantage. There was something different about Conor. I don't know, being friendly, maybe isn't his look. He needs to be a killer. He needs to be mad. Maybe he needs to be broke. Maybe something needs to happen to fire him up, but he's loving life too much. And it's kind of hard to summon the beast when life is so good. So I got Poirier on the edge right there. I think he looks fantastic as long as he weathers the storm again. We see Conor die out in about 8 minutes in every fight. He turns into a different fighter, not as light on his feet. He's a little more flat and susceptible. So if he doesn't get it done in the first 9 minutes, then we're going Poirier from there on out.
Awesome, man. We will have you hopefully back on before that big fight. Gilbert Melendez, we always appreciate the time. Make sure you check him out on ESPN.com. And hopefully we'll be working together again in the LFA really soon, my man.
Oh, yeah, man. Had a blast working with you. Let's do it.
All right, let's do
Thanks,
it.
guys.
Gilbert, thanks for the time. The MMA plug powered by Denver Sports Betting rolls on after this.